Now look out, we got a big idea. We want a pretty good-sized house with a green roof and a big white porch. It'll look more like a clubhouse. I want it there so we can ride our horses and hitch them right in the front of the house. And all of our roping and riding and everything we will do in that space down in front of the place where we will build the house. Welcome to the ranch house at Will Rogers State Historic Park. This good-sized house of Will's was his refuge from the hustle and flurry of Hollywood and his enormous popularity as an entertainer and public figure. But most importantly, this was a comfortable, private home, large enough for Will's generous spirit. A place to shelter his family and welcome his many friends. Will and his wife Betty played a major role in the design for both the architectural structures on site and the landscaping. Over a 7-year period, Will Rogers transformed what was a weekend retreat into a sprawling ranch that reflected his industry, ingenuity, and closeness to the land. The original ranch house structure started out as a simple one-story cabin built in 1928. But by 1935, a series of additions expanded the cabin to a magnificent 31 rooms with 11 baths and 7 fireplaces. It's not really a ranch, but we call it that. It sounds big and don't really do no harm. Here in the South Wing living and dining area, the Rogers entertained family and friends, along with world-famous movie stars, artists, politicians, businessmen, all welcomed with the family's easygoing brand of hospitality at home on the ranch. The emotional center of the home, this grand room was used daily by the family and their guests. After Will Rogers' death in 1935, this room was used to display his most beloved possessions, both to keep his legacy alive and to raise money for charitable causes. As one enters the front door, the striking Riverstone fireplace is the centerpiece of the room. Mounted above the mantel is a Texas Longhorn steerhead with horns stretching over 7 feet wide. This was given to the Rogers family as a gift from Amon Carter, a Texas publisher and oil man, in homage to their early ranching traditions. In front of the fireplace are silhouetted cowboys and irons, and a barrel holding branding irons significant to Will Rogers' early cowboy beginnings. These irons are brands developed and used on his dad's ranch in Oologah, Oklahoma. According to the style of the era, the Rogers family furnished their home with Rustico reproduction furniture called Monterey, produced by George and Frank Mason and distributed through Barker Brothers. Early pieces of Monterey furniture are characterized by dark wood stain, horseshoe brand marks, and ironwork hinges and latches. The rough-sawn walls and open rafter ceiling create a rustic farmhouse charm. Decorative Western and practical ornaments include beams appointed with horsehead corbels, sculptures of Will Rogers' favorite horses, carved by George Semro, brother of Adolph Semro, the architect who designed the original cabin. A wagon wheel, oxen yoke, harness, and other bits of Western gear were used as one-of-a-kind lighting fixtures. The oversized windows and French doors throughout the home bring the feeling of the outdoors into the interior environment. Most of the light sources within all the rooms in the home emanate through large picture windows, like the one in the west alcove called the Ziegfeld window. This was added by the frequent guest Florence Ziegfeld, creator of the Ziegfeld Follies, in which Rogers starred for several years. It was installed as a surprise and was designed to give the family an ocean view. A striking collection of Native American textiles accumulated over time pay homage to Will's Cherokee Indian heritage. They were used to cover the pegged oak floors as warm, comfortable throws over the chairs and sofa, and sometimes hung on the walls as colorful and delightful backdrops. Will Rogers' passion for horses and his Western ranching heritage are reflected in his extensive collection of Western American art. Prominent in his collection of early 20th century art are paintings, prints, and sculptures by Will's close friends, Charles Russell and Ed Borain. While Will collected the work of a great many artists, he preferred the work of real cowboy artists, ones who'd ridden the range and experienced firsthand the often harsh life of a cowboy. The narrow mezzanine gallery banister overlooking the living dining room provided display areas for his cherished saddles and tack. As a tribute to the loving couple who created this home, there are two large oil portraits in gilded frames by Howard Chandler Christie, famous fashion illustrator and portrait artist. Completed in 1939, these striking paintings of Will and Betty Rogers were installed in memoriam of the couple. Passing through the dining area is the entry to the pantry. Featured is a unique Monel sink design made from an amalgam of nickel, copper, and iron with an S-curve separator. Below are painted white cabinets with goblets, plates, and other dinnerware used by the family and their guests. On the counter opposite the sink is a Dutch oven to keep food warm. A practical man who disliked domestic interruptions, Will had a simple hole cut in the wall of the pantry, allowing the phone to be passed through to avoid stalled meals. Black and white checkerboard linoleum merged pantry and kitchen, which featured the newest technology of the time, an electric hot-point stove, and a built-in electric refrigerator by Frigidaire. Outside the south wing kitchen, through a now enclosed porch, stands the Palos Verdes stone outdoor fireplace, which was used to warm the patio for evening entertainment. The railroad tie stairs with iron rails on the exterior of the house lead up to the room of Will and Betty's son, Jimmy. During the day, an adjacent pergola with climbing vines of wisteria offered aromatic shade. Allowed to flourish, it wrapped around the balcony of daughter Mary's upper-level room in the north wing. The north wing of the ranch house is a 1930s addition, comprised of 2 stories and 13 rooms, and was constructed as the family's private quarters. It features a cozy sitting room used for reading and for when either a guest or Betty Rogers played music. The interior design is of a softer and more formal decor that contrasts with the rustic dark interior and colorful furnishings of the south wing. Here, the walls are a light varnished pine. High-quality millwork trim surrounds windows, doors, and built-in features. The library is the backdrop for this split-level room, and caramel-colored maple chairs with pastel-colored cushions, an overstuffed sofa, and wingback chairs set cozily around the fireplace. As Will Rogers was a famous and well-liked columnist and author, the impressive library contains rare first edition copies of books personally inscribed to Will Rogers by friends and authors such as Theodore Roosevelt, Helen Keller, Houdini, and other well-known contemporaries of the day. Down the hall is Will Jr.'s bedroom. Will was the oldest son of Rogers and lived on the ranch until he was a teenager. Will Jr.'s childhood room has painted wood wainscoting with plaster walls above the wainscot that are rubbed in a rich brown tone. A tiny fieldstone fireplace is in the corner. The bedroom furnishings include an oak desk and a 19th century carved oak Jacobean-style dresser. Will Jr.'s room holds an impressive collection of books on history, politics, and philosophy, in addition to an early childhood collection of first editions of the Oz series by L. Frank Baum. The passage up the stairs leads you directly into Will's study, continuing to reflect the Rogers' thoughtful balance between aesthetic and practicality. Will Rogers created a comfortable home environment that blurred the lines between work and play, allowing him the comforts of an orderly but relaxed atmosphere to create in. He was incredibly successful as a featured syndicated columnist in most of the nation's newspapers and a regular writer in many popular magazines, as well as a star of radio and movies. The large Monterey desk sits in front of a picture window with views of the sky, canyons, and stables. The wide open space of the landscape infuses the room. On top of the desk is Will's portable Remington typewriter, on which his newspaper articles and other writings were crafted. A radio sits close by. Through Will's insight and up-to-the-minute commentaries, the American public was able to expand its horizons by following his journeys. The globe and maps which charted his travels are close by the desk. Geography don't change human nature. If you are right, people are for you, whether it's in Africa or Siberia. Next to Will's study is the master bedroom. Adjacent and overlooking the golf course and stables is Betty's sitting room, where after Will's death, she wrote his biography. Since his youth, Will's free-roaming cowboy lifestyle in search of the wide-open range sent him on adventures in travel from Oklahoma to Australia. Like horses, aviation became an integral part of Rogers' lifestyle, allowing him to travel the world for his career and still have enough time to spend on the ranch with his family. At a time when commercial aviation was at its earliest beginnings, Will's career aims and zeal for new discoveries often had him taking risks. On a continent-hopping expedition with aviator friend Wiley Post, their single-engine plane went down in Alaska, killing both men. The Rogers family and the world lost an irreplaceable treasure. When I die, my epitaph, or whatever you call those signs on gravestones, is going to read, "I joked about every prominent man of my time, but I never met a man I didn't like." Will Rogers is buried at the Will Rogers Memorial Museum in Claremore, Oklahoma, with his wife and 3 of their 4 children, but a tribute to his generous spirit and the generosity of his family is the ranch house at Will Rogers State Historic Park.